Omo a Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nishasane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nishasane Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Pakyuke Sundan Dagi Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Tenyerme Chikto Jingilo Makyuke Kudan Dagi Lu Makyuke Sundan Dagi Makyuke Tudan Dagi Tenyerme Chikto Jingilo Om Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sangye Chodan Soge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamgin Drola Pinchire Sangye Drupar Sangye Chodan Soge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamgin Drola Pinchire Sangye Druparashum Sangye Chedan Soge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonamgi Drola Pinchire Sangye Druparashum. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Dorna Sangha Nawa Chisharian Chuku Nimbo Tumge Nyamlengi Janchu Semni Pewe Lamgyurte Yide Bashik Gombar Jingilop. Verse number 97. In short, no matter what appearances may arise, be they good or bad, we seek your blessings to transform them into a path ever enhancing the two bodhicittas through the practice of the five forces, the quintessence of the entire Dharma, and thus attune ourselves solely to the bliss of the mind. no matter what appearances may arise. First of all, when we talk about appearances, here it's showing to us that everything that we perceive is an appearance. We live on the basis of appearances. And just one reflection before we continue to the actual point. What happened is that we cannot really trust very much our senses, because we live on the basis of the senses, but we cannot trust fully our senses. How many times it happened that something appears in a way, but that actually it's different? Very often, on a gross level, on a subtle level all the time. Okay, so very often it may happen that something appears to us in a way, but actually it is different. In the same way, the same situation can appear to one person as good, to another person as bad. It's not necessarily in one way. So there's two things. One thing is the appearance. The other thing is the grasping. So something may appear to me good, but I may see it, okay, that's not really good. Something may appear to me good, and I may say, yes, it is really good. So it depends. There is one thing is the appearance, and the other thing is what we call the way how we grasp that reality. And we say, yes, that is what it is. For example, I may be seeing one projection of an image, and I say, okay, appeared to me to be that object, but I know it's not. It's just an image that is being projected. So there is this difference also of appearance and the way how we perceive things, what we actually believe in. So here, it is actually saying, whatever appearances may appear to us, good or bad, whatever experiences we may have of reality through our senses, may they be positive or may they be negative. Okay, we have both all the time. So, whatever may they be, we seek your blessings to transform these appearances, these experiences, into the path, ever enhancing the two bodhicittas, into the path to develop the two bodhicittas. Bodhicitta means mind of enlightenment. Bodhi is mind. Bodhi is enlightenment. Chitta means mind. So mind of enlightenment. There are two types of bodhicitta normally. Is what is called the relative bodhicitta, Kunzop Semkye, and the absolute bodhicitta, Tendam Semkye. Relative bodhicitta is, in other words, love and compassion. Okay? Is the deep, strong determination to reach enlightenment, to develop one's own qualities to their maximum potential, to abandon one's own defilements, in order to help every sentient being to do the same. But as we were explaining this morning, it's developing love and compassion, and absolute bodhicitta is developing wisdom. This morning we were saying the path is mainly two things that we need to familiarize ourselves with, that we need to shape our mind into, which is to shape our mind into love and compassion and into wisdom. So this is what are called the two bodhicittas. So what he's saying here is saying, in short, no matter what experience I may have, no matter what appearances may arise, positive or bad, good or bad, as they may seem to me, we seek your blessings to transform these circumstances into a path ever enhancing the two bodhicittas, into a path always to develop more and more, to shape my mind into love, compassion, and wisdom. This is the direction that we put, which means this is actually in accordance with the teachings of the Kadampa tradition, which is within the Lojong, which were taught in Tibet originally by Atisha. We have Atisha represented on my right side with the red hat. And Atisha was a master from India, and he arrived in Tibet in the beginning of the 11th century. And Atisha had one main disciple called Dromtom Gyaltsen Chungne, and that's where the Kadampa tradition started. Kadampa, Ka means speech, Dham means tight. So those that hold tight into the teachings of Buddha, to put them into practice precisely. So, in the Kadampa tradition, there is some aspects which are very clear. For example, it doesn't matter what circumstances you are experiencing, good or bad. They are all wonderful opportunities to practice the Dharma. In the Lojong teachings, this is very clear in the mind training teachings. So, if you are sick, that's a good opportunity to practice the Dharma. If you are healthy, that's even better opportunity to practice the Dharma. Very good one also. If you are alone, wonderful, meditate, do many things to do. If you are in company, practice patience, help others. If you are with people that you love, wonderful, you can practice the Dharma. If you are with people that you don't like, the wonderful opportunity to practice the Dharma also. So in other words, there is no excuses not to practice the Dharma. There is no any circumstance, whatever it may be, for us not to practice. What does it mean for us not to practice? For us not to shape our mind into love, compassion, and wisdom. It doesn't matter where we may be. It doesn't matter with whom we may be, in what situation we may find ourselves. It's possible to use that situation as an opportunity to shape our mind into love, compassion, and wisdom. Okay? Is it easy? No. Is it possible? Yes. And actually much better. So, it doesn't matter what happened, good or bad, may I transform it into the path that enhances the two bodhicittas, love, compassion, and wisdom. Within that, it says, and I will use to do that the 5 forces, the quintessence of the Dharma. The 5 forces appears 2 times in these teachings, in this text, which is in verse number 97 and also once again in verse number 112. The 5 forces comes from the teachings of Lojong, and basically there are 2 ways, 2 approaches to the 5 forces, one during lifetime and one in front of our own death. So on verse number 112, it relates to the 5 forces in front of death, while in relation to death, while here in verse number 97 are the 5 forces in relation to our lifetime. Okay? I remember the 5 forces quite clearly in relation to the death moment. I don't remember them exactly, precisely. We'll try to remember now in relation to our life. I don't have with me now here the commentary book in which all this is explained in detail. So I would check this evening just to see if I didn't say anything stupid. But basically, we will go now to these 5 forces again. Okay? But one thing before that is that there is a connection between this verse and the previous verse. Because one thing that was put very clear in the Kadampa tradition is that whenever we have one adverse circumstance, as we were talking before, it is actually the best opportunity to practice the Dharma. Why? Because it's very important in our path to see our own shadow, to see our faults, to see our defilements, to recognize them. Because it's only when I see the shadow, when I see the darkness, that I can apply the light. In other words, it's so important to be able to do a good diagnosis in order to apply the medicine. No? Like, even the medicine, a physical substance of a medicine, it only becomes medicine truly when it enters into contact with the sickness. Otherwise, it's just a substance. We can have a whole pharmacy in front of us. Each and every substance that I have there, it only becomes medicine when it enters in contact with the right condition of sickness. And then it can cure it. Otherwise, the same medicine given in a different condition to the wrong patient, it may become poison. Okay? So what makes that substance to be something that can cure? When it encounters the right sickness, then it can cure it. Otherwise, it's just a substance and it can even become a poison. Okay? So, based on that, it becomes very important for us to see our own defilements, to recognize, where is my hatred, my aversion, jealousy, envy, whatever. It's important for us to recognize our own defilements so that we can actually put the right effort on the antidote to eliminate them and to change. Otherwise, there is the danger of just developing an idealized view of what we should be, and at the same time, practicing looking outside and looking outward and not inward. Not looking at our own defilements and applying the antidote there. We try just to look outside and, okay, I must have this behavior, I must do like that, but we're never looking inside. It's like it's more important to recognize one's own ignorance than actually look at wisdom. Okay? But it's another subject, we will come after to that. So based on this, the Kadampa masters, they said that our best friends are actually our enemies. In other words, those that we see as our enemies are actually our best friends. Why? Because those that put us in difficult conditions are those that actually reflect the defilements that we have within ourselves. So we can see more clear, and then we can put an effort to change something. There were even masters of the Kadampa tradition, great yogis, that when they see that in their life they are in a situation, let's take for instance anger, in which they don't get angry anymore. They are fine, they are happy, whatever happens, they are not reacting with anger to anything anymore around them. So what would they do? They would go to look for more extreme situations to see if they would get angry or not. More and more, more and more, more and more. Why? Because they want to find out the anger that is hidden somewhere within them in order to apply the antidote. So in this sense, whenever we have difficult situations, welcome. Whenever someone is not treating us in the right way and we are not well and so on, welcome. So by that, I can know better what is happening within myself. I can look within my mind and I can understand my defilements and apply the antidotes. Okay. And we don't need to go to look for adverse circumstances. They come. I think most of us, we are not at that point yet. Okay? But still, even from a more mundane level, when we look at people that had many difficulties in their life, they are much stronger than other people. When I look, for instance, at my grandparents or people from their generation, they escaped from the war, they went to live in a place where they didn't know anyone and they had nothing basically. They start from nothing, they had a lot of difficulties in their lives and they lost everything a few times in their life. So based on all the difficulties that they went through, nowadays, any difficulty, so what? I mean, they are much stronger, much more stable than people that have never went through greater difficulties. On the other side, when we have a great difficulty and we are not able to overcome it, but we simply enter into a negative loop of suffering and so on, then it is worse. But if we ever have a difficulty and we are able to overcome it, welcome. It's a blessing. Okay. So, we should not see the adverse circumstances as being totally adverse, but just as something that because of our inner conflicts we are not able to overcome. This is one important point. Together with this comes another point of the path of the Bodhisattva, which is the fact of not having fear of suffering. Normally we have quite a lot of fear of suffering. And Atisha said to his disciple Dromtonpa, "Do not fear suffering, my son." And he said, "But Master, if I do not fear suffering, I will not do anything to eliminate it. And so by the end I will suffer more." And Atisha said, "No, because normally you suffer much more from the fear of suffering than from suffering itself. We believe we cannot, we are not able, and then based on that how will I do? I'm not going to be able to do this and here and there. And then we end up suffering much more from the fear of suffering than from the actual situation. So, to have courage to say, okay, suffering is part of life. I have a body, naturally this body will decay. It's part of life. Even the definition of body of our aggregates normally is called Sakchen Yerlingi Pumbo. They say Sakchen Yerlingi Pumbo means the heap of accumulation of the results of contaminated actions, basically. In other words, this body is where all the results of our negative actions accumulate. So, It's naturally. In the moment that we have this body, sooner or later, is it going to get older if we don't die early? Sure. Especially if we don't use it correctly, we don't live in the right environment, we don't have emotional stability and so on. Am I going to get at some point my body to be old and difficult and so on? Yes. That's part of life. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm not fearing it. On the other side, when I live with people, sooner or later there are going to be conflicts and difficulties. This is also part of life. That's okay. But the point is that when we stay fearing so much something, we do not put the effort on something beyond. We get stuck on the fear. Instead, when we see it as something normal and part of life, we put our goal higher. We go beyond that little suffering or big or middle or whatever suffering it may be. We go beyond it. And we don't get stuck into it. Okay? So it's important also, whatever happens, doesn't matter good or bad, I will overcome it. I don't need to get stuck into it. There's no point of that. So having no fear of it. Okay? So whatever circumstance appears, we can use it as our practice to enhance love, compassion, and wisdom. That's the main point here. Now we go through the 5 powers. Okay? So the 5 forces, as I said before, they are in 2 contexts. During the lifetime and in relation to our own death, as a preparation for our death. On the verse number 112, it will come the explanation of the 5 forces in relation to death. And now here in verse 97, we have the 5 forces in relation to our own daily life. Even though it exists this distinction, normally I have a better acquaintances with the 5 forces in relation to death, which actually needs to be practiced since this moment. It's not like, okay, the day that I see that I'm starting to die, I should start to practice the 5 forces. No. It's something that are important since this very right moment, also because we never know when we are going to die. Anyhow, we will see that in verse number 112. Now we go to verse number 97. So in verse 97, it is saying that I should make every situation that I experience an opportunity to practice the Dharma by applying the 5 forces. So let's see what are these 5 forces. So the 5 forces are, we have Karpa Sabung Top, the force of virtue, Sunjimpe Top, the force of antidote, or the force of recognition of the faults. Sunjimpe Top. Then we have Dumpe Top, the force of, or Sampe Top, no, I don't remember exactly, one of the 2, which is the force of intention. Mönlamge Top, the force of prayer. And Kompe Top, the force of familiarization. Okay? So let's start with the first. The power of virtue. The power of virtue means basically for us to accumulate positive actions during our daily life, consciously, which means to practice generosity, morality, patience, to help others, to do anything that creates a positive interdependence with others and accumulates positive actions, accumulates merits, virtue. So we should do this in a conscious way in our daily life. Okay? This is the first strength, which is the power of virtue. And there is not something, okay, when it comes, it comes. No, it is important actually to be aware daily to do positive action, to accumulate positive causes. So this is the first power, the first strength, or the first force. The second force, the force of the antidote, it means to recognize clear what harms us and what is of benefit for us. And actually to recognize very well, actually more precisely, it is the strength, the force of recognizing the faults of our own defilements. For instance, anger. Anger is not good for me, and is having the determination, I will never ever follow anger. I will never ever let myself be driven by anger, because it doesn't matter what happened, is not a good excuse for that. Like, Sometimes we may wish to become angry, like we get into a situation, anger starts appearing. But if very clearly we actually recognize how anger is harmful, it destroys our friendships, it makes us do things that normally we would not do, it will harm our body, destroy our merits, and so on. So in the moment that I know all the faults of anger, even anger starts to come, I say, no, I shouldn't follow it. I should not follow this anger because it's really harmful to me. So this is the force of the antidote. More than antidote, the force of recognizing the faults of our mental defilement. Normally I call the force of antidote, but basically we need to recognize the negative aspects of the negativities and make this clear in our mind. Then we have the next force, which is the force of intention. Intention is the basis of our motivation. So what do we want? I wish to be always in a state of love and compassion. May I never be separated from the bodhicitta. In other words, I need to make clear to myself what is my goal. Have clear to oneself, where do I want to reach? What is my ultimate goal? This we need to make clear to ourselves. Okay? I want to be in a state of love, compassion, peace, wisdom. That's what I want to be. I want to develop full bodhicitta. It doesn't matter what will happen, I will not let myself down. I will practice the Dharma in every circumstance, positive or negative. Intention. Very important. Together with intention, we get the power of prayer. The power of prayer, it's very similar to intention, but it's more strong. The word prayer in Tibetan is Mönlam. Mön means aspiration. Lam means path. So it's the path to aspiration. When we want something, we give a pathway to that we want. We direct our mind to it. So intention is where we initially generate an objective, and the prayer is where we stick to that objective. We say, yes, I must get it. That's what I want. We direct ourselves to it and we say, I want this, I want that. We are praying for it. Okay? So basically, is that we direct our mind to the object that we want to reach. Okay? In this case, we pray, may I always be separated from the great mind of bodhicitta, and it doesn't matter in any of my lives and in any circumstances during this life, may I always be able to practice the transformation of the mind, and so on. So in other words, in the intention we generate the objective, in the prayer we hold to it and we wish to be able to fulfill it. Okay? Then we have the power of familiarization. The power of familiarization basically is where we repeat the same thing again and again in order for us to realize it. In other words, is by practicing the training of the mind, by practicing Lojong, by avoiding negativities, by cultivating our virtues. Slowly we get used to it. Slowly we make it more and more strong, more and more deep into our mind. That's the power of familiarization. Okay? So we need to familiarize ourselves with virtue. So these are the 5 forces. And we should use them in order to familiarize ourselves more and more with love, compassion, and wisdom. In very few words, okay? And so the verse says, in short, no matter what appearances may arise, be they good or bad, we seek your blessings to transform them into a path ever enhancing the 2 bodhicittas through the practice of the 5 forces, quintessence of the entire Dharma, and thus attune ourselves solely to the bliss of the mind. This means the spiritual path is a path of joy, it's not a path of suffering. This doesn't mean that it's easy or pleasurable. Okay? Not always easy. Is it easy to look at our own eyes and see our defilements? To put effort to eliminate our anger, is that easy? No. Is it pleasurable? Not really. But it's a path of joy. Because we know we are going in the right direction. There's a pleasure in every little step that we do. Okay? So we should always be connected to the state of bliss, to the state of joy. And it's the joy of practicing the Dharma. It's the joy of being in the right direction. It doesn't matter in which circumstance I am. Okay? So let's move on to the next verse. So, the next verse refers to the part of the mental training of Lojong, which refers to the 4 ways of action and the vows, the commitments, and the advices given from the Lojong. It's 19 vows and 22 advices, if I remember correctly. Advice. So basically what happened is that to go explain this correctly, I would need a commentary on the Guru Puja commentary. I think it has also in there, or at least a commentary on the text of the 7 points mind training, which I don't have it right now with me here. So I will take this text tomorrow morning. I will give a look at it tonight, and I will bring the text tomorrow morning so that we can explain this verse in a more detailed way. So I would think that we just move on to the next verses so that tomorrow we can come back again and look at this verse with more calm and more detail. But the important thing here is that I want to do that also because the commitments, the vows that are there on the mind training, I believe are the most suitable vows for our modern times. There are some vows that are very simple, but they really apply very well to our needs nowadays. There is one vow which says, do not talk about the missing qualities of others, which means do not criticize others. Another vow which says, do not think about others' lives, basically. Mind your own business. Don't need to stay thinking about, oh, this person did that, that person did this, look what he's doing, look what that. Don't do that. This is just 2 very simple examples of things that actually fit very well to our modern needs nowadays. So we will look at that tomorrow with more calm. I don't think we are going to look through it to too many details, otherwise we stay the whole day on it, which is not a real problem, but still I prefer to go not into too many details tomorrow. Anyhow, we'll see that tomorrow. Now we talk here about, the verse says, whatever we occasion to meet, we seek your blessings that we may adapt it to our meditation, which means meditation here doesn't mean only sitting down in silence and meditating. It means our familiarization with our mind of love and compassion, with bodhicitta. So it doesn't matter any circumstance I may see. It doesn't matter where I am, with whom I am, what situation I might find myself in. May it always be used as a way to enhance my 2 bodhicittas, as it was said before. May I be able to apply my practice within it. May I be able to practice the mind transformation, which means the familiarization with love, compassion, and wisdom into that situation. By the skillful means of the 4 acts, this we're going to look tomorrow also. Inside of this, there's the part of making acts of generosity to sentient beings such as spirits and relying upon a protector, Dharmapala, and so on. This we can see tomorrow. What's the actual meaning of this? And then it says also, may we render this life of liberties and endowments, which means this life with wonderful opportunities that we have, infinitely meaningful by putting into practice the advice and commitments of the training of the mind. So tomorrow we are going to see what are the 22 advices and the 19 commitments, if I remember the numbers correctly, and how we will see this tomorrow in order to make our life truly meaningful by putting them into practice. Okay? So I keep this for tomorrow morning, and then now we move on with the next verses. Okay. Now just one thing I forgot to say in English. The important thing of this part also, it says, there is no excuses in order not to practice the Dharma. It is very important for us to make this clear. It may be a good moment of our life or a bad moment in our life. Both of them are a good moment to practice Dharma. If we stay waiting the day that when I will have all the conditions, then I will practice, forget about it. Whenever I talk about this, I always remember one of my friends in the monastery. His name was Geshe Ngawan Tarlam. And he was a very good person. He had an amazing capacity of memorization. He knew all the philosophy books, but I mean the whole books and books and books, all by heart, word by word. All the meditation practices, the sadhanas, all the protectors, pujas, everything which you can name it, he knew everything by heart. for many, many years, for more than 20, 30 years, every year where there was the memorization exams in the monastery, he was always number one. For more than 1,500 monks, and was probably in the whole monastery of 4,000 monks, he was the first. So he had this amazing ability, and for many years he was always saying, I need to practice, I need to sit down and meditate well. He was a bit busy, because he was also the umze. He was like the best umze. He knew so well how to do all the melodies, and how to recite all the prayers and so on. So he was always busy doing other things, and he was never able to sit down and meditate as he really, truly wanted. He was doing his practices in La Morla in a hurry because he had too many things to do somehow. What happened is that sadly, at one point he got sick. He was around his 40s, and he died of a cancer shortly later. And this great opportunity is gone. Next life, you need to memorize everything again somehow, because you don't bring it to the next life. So what I want to say is, like, when we really have an opportunity, we need to use it since the very first moment, because we never know if we are really going to get a different opportunity. And even if we get that opportunity, maybe we are so used not to do the practice in the right way that when we get the opportunity, we are not able to use the opportunity in the best way. So we need to start practicing since this very right moment, independently of the conditions that we have. Then one day we have better conditions, we are going to use it even better. Okay? This is also an important aspect which comes together with this verse. Okay. Verse number 99. We are always in the practice of Tonglen, of the practice of the Lojong. So, verse number 98, as it says, Tonglen lula kyompe truldekche, chamda ninja lape sambayi, lona sitso chele trolvechir, chanju semni chongwar jingi lop. Verse number 99. In order to rescue all beings from the vast seas of existence, we seek your blessings to become adept in bodhicitta, to the pure selfless wish, and by love and compassion, conjoined in the visual technique of mounting, giving and taking upon the breath. Here, we are talking about one practice which is called the practice of Tonglen, the practice of giving and taking. And this is a very, very important practice, especially when we talk about developing bodhicitta. And to understand this practice well, we need to understand some points first. Okay? So first thing to understand is a quality of the mind. The mind has an aspect that is, the mind has an aspect that is our total inability to have two thoughts at the same time that have a direct opposite mode of apprehension. For example, we're not able to think at the same time, I like water and I don't like water. We can think, I like the temperature, but I don't like the taste. But we are not able to have, in relation to the same specific object, a direct opposite mode of apprehension. We are not able to do that. Okay? So, normally when we want to eliminate one thought, we have different thoughts, we have different perceptions, we have different inner habits, emotions, and so on that are not good for us. Normally when we try to eliminate one mind, what do? We just try to pull it away. Oh no, I shouldn't be angry, this is not good for me, we just try to send it away. Like if I say I don't like water, and I think it's not good for me to think that I don't like water because I need to drink more water, so I need to eliminate the mind that thinks I don't like water. What do? If I just try to send away the mind I don't like water, it will just, like if I throw it down and then it bumps back even stronger. In Portuguese we say, quanto mais mexe, mais lambuza, means the more you mix with it, the more dirty you become. The more you put your hand, the more dirty it becomes. So sometimes You just need to let it there. The more you try to set it away, the stronger it will come back. So what do we need to do in order to eliminate one state of mind? We need to generate a directly opposite state of mind. By that we can eliminate. If I want to eliminate the mind that says, I don't like water, what do I need to do? I need to generate the mind, I like water. How will I do that? I will need to induce myself to that mind by recognizing the qualities of water, how important it is to drink water, how good is the water, blah, 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 blah. Then I will try to induce myself to small experiences of drinking water, positive experiences, then refer to these positive experiences. You see, I drank water and it was nice, and water is good for me, and so on, until I generate the thought, I like water. In the moment that I generate the thought, I like water, naturally, the thought, the mind, I don't like water, stops. We are not able of having both at the same time. So, based on that, what we need to do is that whenever we want to eliminate one state of mind, we need to generate a directly opposite state of mind. Okay? So here in this context, the state of mind that we need to eliminate is our own selfishness. Selfishness is the obsession with self-gratification. It's the I, and this is strong, immense attachment for the I and the my as the most important thing that ever existed and will ever exist in the whole universe. Okay? We focus ourselves always in the I and the my. And this is the main cause of our suffering. Because through selfishness we react with attraction, aversion, anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, and all the rest. In other words, through selfishness we relate to the world with creating what are called the 9 objects and the 3 attitudes. The 9 objects are those that are beneficial to me are my friends. Those that are beneficial to my friends are my friends. Those that harm my enemies are my friends. Those that harm me are my enemies. Those that harm my friends are my enemies. And those that benefit my enemies are my enemies. Those that don't harm or benefit my friends, my enemies, or those to whom I am indifferent are indifferent. Okay? These are the 9 objects. What they all have in common is the I and the my. I am in the middle of everything always. When we have this, the stronger is our selfishness, the stronger we will compare ourselves all the time with others. And by comparing ourselves with others, what happens is that we will always see others as or superior, or equal, or inferior. It can see someone is more beautiful, same as me, less beautiful. Someone is more rich, same as me, less rich or poor. And like this we can go on and on with thousands of references, different references through which we see someone as superior, as equal, or as inferior. As we do that, what happens is that our natural attitude with selfishness is to develop envy towards those that are superior. Competitiveness, we compete with those that are equal. And when we have arrogance towards those that are inferior. Actually, it's quite tiring. Always there, competing with envy, with arrogance. It's very tiring all the time to be into this type of situation, okay? The stronger is the selfishness, the stronger these attitudes will be. So, selfishness is actually the main cause of our suffering. The root of suffering is ignorance, but the main cause of suffering is selfishness. From selfishness comes attraction, aversion, anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, and all the rest, and from that we suffer. So basically, it's very important to eliminate selfishness. So how do we eliminate selfishness? Generating a mind that is directly opposite to selfishness, that has a direct opposite mode of apprehension than the mind of selfishness. So, how does the mind of selfishness function? What is good, I want. for me. What is bad? Far away from me. Where doesn't matter. Okay? This is how our selfishness works. So what we will generate here, an opposite mode of apprehension. What is the opposite mode of apprehension of selfishness? What is good? For others. What is bad? I take for me. Okay? And we do this through visualization, together with intention, visualization, together with our breathing. There is one very important detail on this, which the first times I start teaching the practice of Tonglen, of giving and taking, Lama Ganchen asked me, how did you explain? Then I told him about this detail. They said, okay, then it's fine. This one detail that is explained in one commentary of this practice written by Trichan Rinpoche, Rinpoche's guru. That is represented on my left here. Anyhow, the detail is the following. First thing that we do in our meditation is we visualize in our heart one dense black mass. Very dense, a little sticky. And this dense mass is the mass of our own selfishness. We visualize our own selfishness as something dark, dense, a little bit, how do you say that in English? Not only sticky, but it's disgusting. Okay? So then you look to it and say, ugh. No, it's not even nice even to look to it, and even maybe it smells bad, okay? And you try to, like schiphos, or like something disgusting, repulsive. We look to this black, dense, and it's heavy. It's very, very heavy, and it's there in our heart, and this is our selfishness. So we visualize the selfishness in the heart, and it absorbs into it all the negativities, our sicknesses, our defilements, our negative karma, everything is inside of it. Once we have all the negativities there, the next step is we start visualizing all sentient beings around us. Those that we love, those that we don't love, those to whom we are indifferent, those to whom we have aversion. We visualize everyone around us. As we visualize them and we start to look at their suffering, we will see that everyone suffers, independently who they are. And when we compare our suffering to others, our suffering is nothing compared to the suffering of sentient beings around us. So we start gradually to generate this strong sensation of love and compassion, this wish in which we say, may everyone be completely free from suffering. May they be totally happy. We develop this deep wish. Then we ask the blessings to Guru Buddha, and we say, Guru Buddha, please bless me, so I may have the strength and the wisdom to take upon myself their sufferings. And may I give my happiness to others. So what we do is that at that moment, we first inhale. And as we inhale, we imagine the negativities of others that comes towards us. So we imagine basically their sicknesses, the negative karmas, the mental defilements, everything comes from every sentient being in the form of dark, dense smoke that enters through our nostrils, goes to our heart, and it's absorbed inside the black mass of our heart. And this is an important detail. The two negative forces, one goes against the other. So what happens basically is like negative with negative becomes positive. One eliminates the other. So basically the black smoke enters into the heart, into the black mass of the heart. And the more dark smoke of negativities is absorbed into the black mass of the heart, the more weak the black mass of selfishness becomes until it's completely eliminated. So it's like two negativities, one destroying the other. Okay? This is an important detail. There is other ways of making this visualization, which I personally never found myself very much comfortable with them, but they're explained in this text of Trichan Rinpoche. It's saying, for example, that we visualize our selfishness as a big, strong rock. And then we visualize the negativities of sentient beings coming like a lightning, and it destroys completely the rock very fast, like boom. Or we visualize that our negativities is like a lot of dirt, and then the negativity of sentient beings comes like a strong wind that take away the dirt. Or we visualize that our negativities is like a lot of flesh, meat, and then the negativities comes like many tigers and they just come and eat away all the meat. But I never felt very comfortable with these visualizations. First of all, you visualize the tigers coming and eating all the meat, and then what do you do with the tigers? This is one problem. Another thing, okay, come the lightning destroys the rock. One problem is that it's too fast to meditate for me. Second problem is that what you do with all the pieces of the rocks once it's destroyed. Okay? The same thing, similarly, a little bit with the dirt. So I prefer much more the classical way of doing, which is the dirt that comes in as black smoke, that is absorbed into the black mass and makes it weak and weak and weak and weak until it completely disappears. Actually, it happens simultaneously as the suffering of every sentient being is eliminated and the black mass is eliminated. It both happens together like a scale, that ones go up and the other go down. Okay? So, together with that, when we inhale, we take in the negativities. When we exhale, we give to sentient being all the good things we have. We manifest our body, the material things we possess, our joy, our positive karma, our qualities. Everything is multiplied into infinite forms, into light and nectar, as medicine for those that are sick, as food for those that are hungry, as company for those that feel lonely, as the dharma for those that are ready to receive the dharma. And as it goes to every sentient being, it brings happiness to every one of them. So as we inhale, we take the negativities in, that absorb into the heart and destroy our own selfishness. And as we exhale, we give our joy and happiness and qualities towards other sentient beings. Okay? We can do this practice as we are meditating, sitting down, or we can also do this practice, for example, in our daily life. We are in a place and suddenly we see someone in suffering. We inhale, is suffering. Absorb into selfishness, eliminates our selfishness. We exhale our joy and happiness and the positive things that we give to that person. We can do this in many moments. We can do this in our daily life. It's a very strong practice. I'm sure if we do it really sincerely for a few days, 1 week, we will feel quite some difference within ourselves. Some people don't like very much this practice because it's very strong. And then our selfishness is complaining from behind, saying, no, don't do that. Don't take the suffering from others. What are you doing? Are you crazy or what? No. We are worried that we are taking the suffering of others into ourselves will make ourselves to suffer more. But it's not going to happen. It's important to make the detail of the black mass in the heart that is eliminated. It just remembered me one anecdote, which is a fact. One friend of ours, he was in Malaysia, and it is one old disciple of Rinpoche. And he told me this story personally. He needed to make a surgery to take away his prostate. So in the moment of the surgery, he was in the hospital, and he started doing the practice of Tonglen, but instead of absorbing the negativities into the black mass of selfishness, he imagined all the negativities he was imagining all the suffering of everyone that was in the hospital being absorbed directly into his prostate. Because he said to himself, okay, anyhow they're going to take it away, who cares? So they came, they made the exams to check what type of surgery they should do. And then he remained there doing this visualization. And then after they did the total anesthesia and, anesthesia. And then after that he did a surgery. And when the surgery finished, the doctors came to him and said, look, something very strange happened. We needed to make a different type of surgery because before the surgery made the exam and your prostate had one size. And when we opened it to do the surgery, when we came in the moment to do the surgery, your prostate was much, much larger. We never saw something like this. Can we keep the prostate in order for studies and things like that? And they said, yeah, he showed me a picture of the prostate together with the doctor. It was immense. And then basically what happened is that We don't need to worry about anything like that, especially because the negativities are absorbing into selfishness, not anywhere else. Okay? So we don't need to think, we take that. In other cases, what happens is basically, the fact is that we cannot take negativity from others. No one has the ability to take the negative karma from one person to another. If this was possible, the Buddhas would be doing it all the time for us, no? But that's not possible. Each one of us needs to deal with our own karma. So basically, this is just a detail, but important is that we inhale the negativities, it destroys the selfishness, we exhale our joy, our positive karma, our body, everything, it multiplies everything that we have, and it goes of helping all sentient beings, and then we rejoice about their well-being, their state. By doing that, we are familiarizing ourselves with an attitude that is directly opposite to selfishness. Every time I take suffering within myself, I make selfishness a bit weaker. Every time I give everything I have to others, I make selfishness a bit weaker. And then by doing that again and again and again and again, slowly, we have our selfishness becomes weaker and weaker and weaker, and we are able to have less attitudes such as arrogance and envy, and we stop competing with others, and at the same time we end up suffering less. Okay? Yes? When you do it with a specific pain that you may have, okay, you can do it thinking that you take upon your headache the headache of all other sentient beings that are having the same headache. But if you do that, truly, you should not do worrying that you have more headache. Even if you have more headache, you are happy that you are taking it out of others internally. The more correct attitude is to say, by eliminating my own headache, I eliminate the headache of others. So you take the medicine, you do anything you need to do to eliminate your own headache. So the intention is not of taking the headache into yourself, but of eliminating the headaches of others by eliminating your own headache. This is one way. Okay? That's why when you take the suffering of others, you should take them upon the selfishness, not upon your headache or upon anything else. Okay? This is the difference. Okay? Okay. So the question is, but how come this person, he made his practice on his prostate and the prostate became very big? Did he actually take the negativities upon himself or not? The answer is no. What happened, I suppose, is that by making this practice, he created a condition through which his own negativities or whatever were manifested in the prostate, and then it got bigger. Okay? But this doesn't mean that necessarily he's taking the negativity of others. Even when you take, for instance, a healer doesn't have the ability to take away the suffering of others. He has the ability of creating the right conditions in order to interact with the other person so the other person can get healed. Okay? So it's an interaction. Even if we take all the Buddhas together here at this very right moment, and they need to help one person that is sick, the only thing that all the Buddhas can do is interact with that person. If the person doesn't have the karma, have not created the causes, or is not opening to the conditions, the healing will not happen. Okay? So this is just to make this point clear. But when we really imagine we take the suffering upon ourselves. It's not like just a mental game. Okay? We really imagine it strongly. Anyhow, with this we conclude this verse for today. And it's a very important practice, the practice of Tonglen, of taking and giving. It's something that really changes our reality, not something small. But we need to practice with some constancy and with being very sincere within our practice also. Jetson lame kotse rapten chin nam karatin le chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasomgi drove munsel tato ne gyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin ninsen takto delek pe poncho sumge jinge lo poncho sumge ngodrup sol Concho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.